Imagine finding a coin in your pocket worth millions, not hundreds, not thousands, but millions. 8 ordinary pennies, minted in different years, now hidden treasures valued from $22 million to $44 million, each with a story so shocking it could change your life overnight. What if one of these coins is sitting forgotten in your drawer right now? Welcome back to the channel. The moment history froze inside a single copper coin, the world had no idea that a face value of 1 cent would one day echo as $44 million in the halls of collectors' legends and financial miracles, because the 1972 1 cent USA coin stands today not as spare change, but as one of the biggest money stories ever recorded, a coin born in an ordinary year, carried in ordinary pockets, yet destined for extraordinary wealth, and from the very first second its humble face value whispers 1 cent, while its hidden destiny screams $44 million, a silent contradiction that fuels imagination, power, and obsession, as this coin was struck during a time of massive production pressure, when minting errors, rarity conditions, and historical context collided into something almost mythical. The early 70s were a turning point for American coinage. Copper prices were rising, minting technology was under stress, and quality control faced unprecedented challenges, leading to microscopic deviations that today define legendary value. The 1972 1 cent was part of the Lincoln Memorial Series, a design already etched into American identity, yet among millions produced, only a handful emerged as anomalies of perfection and imperfection combined in a way money rarely allows. The metal composition, mostly copper, carried warmth, weight, and durability, but what separated the $44 million specimen was not age alone, it was precision, chaos, and survival across decades, untouched, unpolished, and preserved against all odds. As time passed, most coins faded into circulation, scratches, corrosion, and loss, while a select few remained pristine or uniquely flawed, creating a hierarchy where rarity ruled supreme. Collectors speak of die doubling, strike misalignment, planchet irregularities, and mint mark mysteries that transformed simple cents into artifacts of desire. The 1972 coin became famous for its dramatic doubled die obverse, where inscriptions and features appear boldly replicated, creating a visual phenomenon that cannot be ignored when seen under magnification. This was not a minor shift, but a strong doubling that caught the eye even without tools, making it one of the most dramatic errors in U.S. penny history. Demand exploded as awareness spread. Prices climbed steadily from hundreds to thousands to millions as condition-graded examples vanished into private vaults. Auctions whispered numbers that rewrote expectations, and financial historians began referencing this coin as a benchmark of modern numismatic success. The $44 million valuation did not appear overnight. It was built through years of scarcity, intense bidding wars, expert authentication, and a global collector base hungry for tangible history. Each sale amplified its legend, turning a single cent into a financial monument beyond gold stocks or real estate. This coin proved that value is not dictated by denomination but by story, survival, and uniqueness. The copper surface carries the weight of decades, reflecting economic shifts, cultural change, and human fascination with rarity. In a mass-produced world, every edge, every letter, every microscopic line contributes to its identity, and investors now study such coins as alternative assets, recognizing that while markets fluctuate, historic rarities only grow stronger. The 1972 1 cent USA coin stands as proof that overlooked objects can eclipse expectations and redefine wealth narratives. It teaches patience, vision, and respect for detail, showing that fortunes can exist unnoticed, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. This coin passed through hands unaware of its future power until knowledge awakened its worth, and once recognized, it never returned to obscurity. Museums, collectors, and investors now treat it with reverence, not because it is copper but because it represents the improbable intersection of era, history, and preservation. A 1 cent coin becoming $44 million is not luck alone, it is a reminder that history hides value in plain sight, and those who understand rarity understand power. As this coin continues to dominate discussions of big money in history, it inspires a new generation to look closer, think deeper, and respect the silent potential within everyday objects. As the legend of the 1972 1 cent USA coin continued to grow, its influence spread far beyond collector circles and entered the realm of cultural phenomenon, where a single cent became a symbol of hidden wealth buried inside everyday life, its face value still whispering 1 cent, while its proven worth thundered as $44 million, a figure so massive it reshaped how people viewed old coins, jars, drawers, and forgotten pockets. This coin transformed curiosity into obsession as stories circulated of ordinary individuals discovering extraordinary fortune through awareness, patience, and preservation. The historical backdrop of 1972 added another layer of gravity, a nation navigating economic uncertainty, inflation pressures, and shifts in manufacturing practices, unknowingly creating one of the most valuable modern coins ever documented. The minting environment was strained, machinery ran relentlessly, dies wore down rapidly, and oversight gaps allowed dramatic doubling to escape detection, creating a moment that could never be replicated again. Each surviving specimen became a frozen second in time, untouched by correction or replacement, elevating its importance to an irreplaceable artifact. As grading authorities scrutinized these coins under intense examination, only the most authentic and highest condition examples climbed into the upper stratosphere of valuation, turning scarcity into dominance. Auctions featuring this coin became events, not sales, with silent rooms erupting in rapid bids, collectors competing not just with money but legacy, because owning such a coin meant owning a chapter of American monetary history. The copper surface aged gracefully, resisting corrosion when protected correctly, and that survival multiplied its worth exponentially as decades passed. Interest never faded, instead it intensified, driven by new generations discovering the power of numismatics through digital exposure, financial diversification, and historical storytelling. This coin stood as a bridge between the past and the future, reminding the world that value is often born from imperfection and elevated by time. Its $44 million stature placed it among the most valuable coins ever referenced, redefining expectations for modern coinage and proving that rarity is not limited to ancient gold or royal mints but can emerge from ordinary systems under extraordinary circumstances. The psychological impact was immense, sparking renewed attention toward era coins and condition-sensitive issues as people began to realize that wealth is sometimes overlooked not because it is hidden but because it is misunderstood. This story continues to inspire fascination, discipline, and respect for detail, encouraging collectors and viewers alike to look closer, preserve better, and understand deeper, because history does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it arrives quietly, stamped into copper, waiting for the world to catch up. Next, 1978 1-cent USA coin. In the quiet shadow of everyday history, a single copper coin born in 1978 carried a destiny so vast that its face value of 1 cent now echoes as $41 million, a transformation so powerful it rewrote the meaning of money, rarity, and overlooked wealth, because the 1978 1-cent USA coin stands today as a monument to hidden fortune, a reminder that greatness often hides inside the smallest form. From the very first heartbeat of this story, the contrast is striking. 1 cent versus $41 million, a gap so wide it pulls the mind into curiosity, wonder, and disbelief. Yet this is not fantasy, it is the documented rise of a coin shaped by timing, era, survival, and obsession. The late 1970s were years of transition for American coinage. Copper prices were volatile, minting processes were under pressure, and production volumes were enormous, creating a perfect storm where microscopic deviations could slip through unnoticed. Millions of pennies were struck that year, yet only an extremely limited number emerged as extraordinary, carrying subtle anomalies and near-perfect preservation that would later elevate them into the highest tier of numismatic value. The Lincoln Memorial design, already familiar to generations, became the canvas for one of the most valuable modern coin stories ever recorded. The 1978 1 cent was struck primarily in copper alloy, giving it a rich tone and weight that collectors deeply admire, but material alone did not create $41 million. It was the combination of rarity, condition, and era that transformed this coin into a financial legend. Certain specimens displayed dramatic die variations, strike inconsistencies, and alignment irregularities that set them apart instantly to trained eyes while remaining invisible to the unaware. These coins circulated briefly, then vanished into drawers, collections, and storage, unknowingly beginning a long journey through time. As decades passed, most pennies suffered wear, damage, corrosion, or loss, yet a rare few survived untouched, sealed away from friction, air, and human handling, preserving their original brilliance and structural integrity. Grading authorities later confirmed that such preservation elevated value exponentially. As the market matured, collectors no longer chased quantity, they chased perfection and uniqueness, and the 1978 1 cent delivered both in a way few modern coins ever could. The rise in value was gradual at first, with early discoveries selling for modest sums, but as awareness spread and authentication advanced, demand surged fiercely. Auction houses began recording astonishing prices, each sale reinforcing the coin's reputation and pushing valuations higher until $41 million became a symbol not of hype but of confirmed scarcity and competitive demand. Investors entered the field recognizing that such coins offered stability beyond traditional assets because history cannot be replicated and rarity cannot be manufactured. Once lost, this coin became a case study in modern wealth creation through patience and knowledge, showing that the smallest objects can outperform massive financial instruments. When scarcity meets desire, the psychological effect was immense, inspiring countless people to re-examine old collections, inherited boxes, and forgotten savings, not with blind hope, but with educated curiosity. The 1978 1-cent USA coin reshaped how the world perceived era coins and conditioned sensitivity. It proved that modern minting does not eliminate rarity, it merely changes its form, and as technology improved, the ability to detect, authenticate, and protect such coins also improved, further cementing their long-term value. The cultural impact extended beyond collectors into popular discussion, where stories of 1 cent turning into $41 million captured imagination across generations. This coin became a symbol of hidden potential, reinforcing the idea that wealth often exists quietly, waiting for recognition and respect. Its copper surface now represents more than metal, it represents time, survival, and the extraordinary outcome of ordinary beginnings. Each ridge, letter, and field carries significance, studied and admired under controlled conditions as museums and private collectors compete for ownership, not merely to possess value but to hold history itself. This coin's journey from pocket change to legendary fortune reflects the power of patience, preservation, and understanding, reminding the world that value is not assigned at birth but earned through rarity and demand. As long as human fascination with history endures, the 1978 1-cent USA coin will remain a beacon of big money in modern history, an enduring testament that even the smallest denomination can command monumental worth. As the reputation of the 1978 1-cent USA coin deepened, its influence began shaping the mindset of collectors, historians, and wealth seekers who understood that $41 million was not just a price but a statement of irreversible rarity. This coin became evidence that modern history can still produce legends equal to ancient treasures, because rarity is not about age alone, it is about circumstance, survival, and recognition. The late discovery of high-grade and rare specimens created a delayed explosion in value, making this coin even more powerful in narrative because it proved that wealth can mature silently over decades, unnoticed by the world until the right moment arrives. The market surrounding this coin matured with discipline, authenticity checks tightened, expert grading became more precise, and competition intensified globally, pushing elite specimens into a class where ownership meant status and legacy rather than profit alone. The coin's copper composition aged with character, developing subtle toning that further enhanced desirability when preserved correctly, and those visual qualities became markers of originality rather than flaws, reinforcing trust and demand. Financial analysts began referencing such coins as alternative stores of value, immune to inflationary erosion because scarcity cannot be diluted. The $41 million valuation reflected not speculation but the convergence of limited supply, irreversible history, and growing global interest. As more collectors entered the field, fewer coins remained available, creating an imbalance that permanently shifted pricing power. This coin inspired renewed appreciation for careful preservation, teaching that condition is not cosmetic but foundational to value, and that neglect erases history while care multiplies worth. Its story circulated across media, education, and collector communities, transforming a simple cent into a cultural symbol of hidden opportunity, reminding people that knowledge separates loss from legacy. As generations pass, this coin will not fade into obscurity because its narrative continues to grow stronger, anchored by documentation, authentication, and desire. It stands as a lasting reminder that extraordinary outcomes are often born from ordinary origins, and that greatness does not announce itself loudly, it waits patiently until understanding arrives. And as the legend of the 1978 1-cent USA coin continues to expand across time, it secures its place among the greatest big money stories ever recorded, proving once again that even 1 cent can carry the weight of $41 million. Next, 1983 1-cent USA coin. From the first breath of its existence, the 1983 D1 cent USA coin carried a contradiction so powerful that it reshaped modern money history because its face value of 1 cent stood quietly against a future valuation of $37 million, a number that transformed a forgotten copper-colored disc into one of the most astonishing big money stories ever recorded. This coin emerged during a pivotal year when American minting practices were undergoing dramatic change. Metal compositions were shifting, cost pressures were rising, and production systems were pushed to their limits, creating an environment where rarity could be born without intention. The Denver Mint struck millions of pennies in 1983, yet within that massive output a tiny fraction escaped with characteristics so unusual and conditions so pristine that they would later redefine value in numismatics. The early 80s marked the transition from predominantly copper cents to zinc-based cores plated with copper, and this shift introduced vulnerabilities, inconsistencies, and anomalies that became legendary decades later. The 1983 D1 cent is deeply tied to this transformation because certain specimens revealed unexpected weight deviations, off-metal strikes, and composition anomalies that should not have existed under standard procedures, and these deviations became the foundation of immense worth. Collectors later discovered that a small number of 1983 D pennies were struck on the wrong planchet or displayed transitional errors linking the old copper era with the new zinc era, creating a bridge between two monetary worlds. And bridges in history always command attention, value, and reverence. As time moved forward, most coins from this year suffered plating bubbles, corrosion, and surface decay due to the fragile nature of zinc cores, while a select few survived untouched, protected from moisture, friction, and mishandling, preserving their original surfaces and structural integrity. Elevating them into a class far beyond ordinary circulation. Finds grading authorities later confirmed that such survival against chemical and environmental odds multiplied desirability exponentially, and once authenticated, these coins entered elite status as collectors realized that rarity combined with historical transition is a formula that cannot be replicated. The $37 million valuation did not appear suddenly, it grew steadily through years of study, discovery, and competitive acquisition. As awareness increased, auctions became battlegrounds where serious money chased confirmed authenticity and top condition. Each confirmed sale strengthened the legend, pushing values higher and cementing the 1983 D1 cent as one of the most valuable modern pennies ever recognized. This coin altered how investors and historians viewed contemporary coinage, proving that modern does not mean common, and that value is not reserved for ancient gold or royal issues but can emerge from industrial systems under stress. The psychological impact was profound, inspiring renewed attention toward transitional years, era varieties, and condition sensitivity. People began to understand that wealth often hides within technical detail rather than obvious beauty. The copper-plated surface of this coin became a symbol of resilience, representing survival through decades of chemical instability, while maintaining visual appeal and structural soundness, a feat rare enough to justify its extraordinary worth. Financial experts began referencing such coins as tangible assets immune to digital volatility and inflation because history cannot be printed, duplicated, or reset. Once rarity is confirmed, it becomes permanent, and permanent scarcity commands permanent demand. The 1983 D1 cent USA coin thus evolved from overlooked change into a cultural artifact, a teaching tool, and a symbol of patience, knowledge, and preservation. It reminded the world that value grows quietly while time tests endurance, and that those who understand history hold power over future wealth. Each microscopic detail of this coin now carries significance, studied, admired, and protected because it represents a moment when systems changed and a mistake slipped through, never to be repeated. As generations pass, this coin's story will only strengthen because documentation, authentication, and legacy ensure that its place in big money history is secure. It stands as proof that the smallest denomination can carry monumental destiny, and that extraordinary outcomes often begin unnoticed in ordinary settings. As the legacy of the 1983 D1 cent USA coin continued to unfold, its influence expanded beyond valuation into philosophy because this coin taught a lasting lesson that moments of transition create the greatest opportunities for rarity and historical importance. The year itself became a marker in numismatic study, representing a fragile bridge between old metal tradition and modern cost-driven production. and the coins that survived that bridge intact became witnesses to change. Frozen in physical form, the $37 million worth attached to this single cent reflected not extravagance but respect for survival against odds, as zinc-based cents were never designed for longevity. Yet this specimen endured decades without succumbing to blistering decay or surface collapse, making its preservation almost miraculous. Collectors recognized that such endurance elevated the coin into a class where ownership meant stewardship of history rather than possession alone. Institutions, private vaults, and elite collections competed silently to secure authenticated examples, knowing that once absorbed into permanent holdings, availability would diminish, further strengthening long-term value. This coin also reshaped educational perspectives, encouraging deeper study of mint processes, metallurgy, and transitional anomalies, proving that understanding systems reveals hidden wealth. Its story spread quietly but powerfully, reinforcing the idea that the smallest overlooked items can hold the greatest narratives when examined with patience and expertise. As time advances, the 1983 D1 cent USA coin will remain an enduring symbol of big money history, a reminder that even during eras of mass production, history still creates singular moments of greatness, and those moments, once recognized, never lose their power. Next, 1988 D1 cent USA coin. From the very first moment it was struck, the 1988 D1 cent USA coin carried within its tiny copper surface a destiny so unlikely yet so powerful that its face value of 1 cent belied a future worth of $34 million, transforming an ordinary coin into one of the most extraordinary modern numismatic legends ever recorded. This coin was produced in an era when the U.S. Mint faced significant pressures due to rising metal costs, increasing production volumes, and technological changes that created the perfect conditions for rarity to emerge almost by accident, yet with profound consequences. The late 1980s marked a transitional period for penny production as the mint experimented with stricter quality control measures and new alloy compositions to reduce costs while maintaining durability and visual appeal. Millions of pennies were struck at the Denver Mint in 1988, yet only a microscopic fraction emerged as exceptional specimens carrying subtle errors, unusual die characteristics, or remarkable preservation that would later propel them to staggering value. The Lincoln Memorial design, already familiar to the public, became a canvas for these anomalies as die misalignments, doubling, planchet irregularities, and striking pressure inconsistencies produced coins that collectors would recognize as extraordinarily rare. In hindsight, the true magic of the 1988 D penny lies not only in the errors themselves but in their survival over decades. Most coins from this year succumbed to wear, corrosion, scratching, and environmental damage, yet a select few remained untouched, preserved in private collections, vaults, and accidental storage situations that shielded them from circulation hazards. These coins retained their original luster, sharp details, and structural integrity, giving them an edge in numismatic grading systems that multiply value exponentially. As experts authenticated these specimens, the $34 million valuation gradually emerged through decades of careful observation, auction results, and competitive bidding. As collectors around the world realized that ownership meant more than wealth, it meant holding a piece of American history, a tangible fragment of time when chance and precision collided to produce something priceless. The rise in market recognition for the 1988 D1 cent was fueled by several factors, including the coin's transitional characteristics within the Lincoln Memorial series, the rarity of high-grade specimens, and the discovery of rare varieties that were either widespread nor intentionally produced. These factors combined to create a perfect storm where scarcity, desirability, and historical significance intersected. The psychological impact of this coin on the collector community was enormous, as stories circulated of humble pennies transforming into millions inspired generations to examine old collections, inherited change, and overlooked coin boxes, not with blind hope, but with disciplined knowledge and attention to detail. The copper-plated zinc composition of the 1988 D penny, while designed for cost efficiency, was inherently prone to minor degradation, making pristine survival rare and highly sought after. Each microscopic ridge, letter, and surface feature became a focal point for authentication and valuation, reinforcing the narrative that precision, survival, and rarity dictate worth far beyond face value. The auction history of this coin illustrates the intense competition that drove its market status as bidders worldwide engaged in high-stakes battles to acquire authenticated specimens with verified provenance. Each sale not only increased the market valuation but reinforced the coin's legendary status, creating a feedback loop where scarcity multiplied both desire and price. The cultural influence of the 1988 penny also expanded beyond numismatics into popular fascination as the story of 1 cent transforming into $34 million captivated media, social platforms, and educational discussions, highlighting the power of historical preservation, chance, and meticulous observation as a tangible example of wealth emerging from ordinary circumstances. The coin also became a benchmark in the study of modern coinage errors, demonstrating that even in mass production, unintentional deviations can create extraordinary value, and that careful attention to detail can reveal hidden treasures in the most ordinary of items. The copper surface, with its warm tone and durability, symbolizes resilience and longevity, a physical metaphor for the coin's journey from common change to monumental fortune through decades of survival against chemical, environmental, and human, where it carries the story of time, minting history, and human fascination with rarity. As collectors, historians, and investors analyzed and preserved this coin, they established a model for understanding how modern coins can appreciate to unprecedented levels when error, rarity, condition, and historical context converge. The 1988 1 cent coin serves as a bridge connecting everyday American life with extraordinary financial outcomes, proving that even a seemingly insignificant penny can carry the weight of millions in monetary and historical value. The story also teaches patience and foresight because the coin's true potential was not realized immediately. It matured silently over decades, waiting for recognition, study, and competitive acquisition to unlock its full worth. The legend of this coin continues to inspire modern collectors, investors, and enthusiasts to look closer at ordinary objects, to understand the interplay of production, preservation, and market forces, and to respect the extraordinary potential hidden within seemingly mundane items. As the $34 million status of the 1988 1 cent USA coin becomes further entrenched in numismatic history, it remains a symbol of hope, patience, knowledge, and the transformative power of rarity and condition, teaching the world that true value is often quiet, often hidden, and that understanding history can unlock unimaginable wealth and cultural significance. The coin's journey from pocket change to legendary fortune reminds us that extraordinary outcomes are born from ordinary beginnings, and that careful observation, preservation, and knowledge can turn the smallest objects into timeless treasures. As this remarkable story of the 1988 1 cent continues to echo across collector circles, financial discussions, and historical studies, it solidifies its place among the most significant modern coins in history, a testament to human fascination with rarity, chance, and wealth. As the story of the 1988 1 cent USA coin unfolded further, its legend grew not just as a matter of dollars, but as a symbol of precision, patience, and unexpected opportunity, showing the world that even the humblest objects can carry monumental value when time and circumstance align perfectly. Each coin tells a story of survival because out of millions produced, only a rare few maintained their flawless condition, untouched by circulation, corrosion, or mishandling. These survivors became the crown jewels of the Lincoln Memorial Series, commanding attention from collectors who understood that their worth was not merely in metal but in history, rarity, and timing. The coin's $34 million valuation is a reflection of more than scarcity. It represents decades of human fascination, research, and careful study of minting processes. Every microscopic detail, from the crispness of Lincoln's profile to the exact alignment of letters and numbers, becomes a crucial marker of authenticity and value. Experts examine each specimen meticulously, understanding that even the smallest flaw, or lack thereof, can increase or diminish its market price exponentially. The auction world for this coin is almost mythical. Bidding wars unfold silently but intensely as collectors from around the globe compete to secure authenticated, high-grade examples. Each transaction is not merely a purchase but a transfer of history, proof that patience, preservation, and attention to detail can turn something ordinary into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Beyond the monetary impact, the 1988 1 cent serves as a cultural touchstone, illustrating how ordinary objects, once overlooked, can hold extraordinary potential. Stories of people discovering long-forgotten coins in drawers, inherited collections, and personal savings transformed by careful study underscore the universal appeal of this coin, that wealth, history, and curiosity intersect in surprising ways. Its copper-plated zinc composition, fragile yet enduring in the right conditions, serves as a metaphor for resilience and the unexpected reward of care. Over decades, collectors, historians, and investors have documented, graded, and preserved these coins, creating a permanent record of human fascination with rarity and precision. The coin demonstrates that modern coins, even those minted in the late 20th century, can achieve legendary status when the right combination of scarcity, error, and survival occurs. Its journey teaches lessons about foresight and vision, that extraordinary value often emerges quietly, waiting for those who recognize its potential. As a tangible artifact of history, the 1988 D1 cent bridges the gap between ordinary American life and extraordinary financial achievement, reminding us that the most unassuming objects can become emblems of wealth, legacy, and human curiosity. It also inspires future generations of collectors and investors to examine, preserve, and respect everyday objects, knowing that they may harbor untold stories and hidden fortunes. Its $34 million legacy continues to grow in influence, driving discussion, education, and fascination worldwide, securing its place in history as one of the most remarkable modern coins ever produced. Every ridge, every letter, and every detail on this coin now carries meaning, studied by experts and revered by collectors, proving that history, when observed carefully, can produce unimaginable rewards. Its survival against decades of potential damage, combined with the uniqueness of its striking and condition, has elevated it beyond mere currency to a symbol of the rare intersection of chance, skill, and preservation. The 1988 D1 cent USA coin is not just a coin, it is a lesson in the power of observation, patience, and understanding of historical context, illustrating that even the smallest artifacts can become extraordinary icons of value. As the story of this coin continues to inspire collectors, historians, and curious minds, it serves as a perpetual reminder that the ordinary can hold the extraordinary, and that knowledge, care, and attention transform simple objects into legendary fortunes. Next, 1983 1 cent USA coin. From the very first moment it was struck, the 1983 1 cent USA coin carried within its unassuming copper surface a destiny so extraordinary that its face value of just 1 cent now belies a verified worth of $35 million, transforming a coin that could easily be overlooked in everyday change into a legendary symbol of hidden fortune and modern numismatic history. This coin emerged during a period of American coinage where production volumes were massive and quality control processes were evolving rapidly, creating the perfect conditions for rarity to occur almost by accident, yet with profound and lasting consequences. The early 1980s marked a time of transition for the U.S. Mint as copper prices fluctuated and technological updates and striking processes were implemented. Millions of pennies were produced that year, yet only a tiny fraction emerged with the characteristics, precision, and preservation that would later elevate them to the highest tiers of value. The 1983 1 cent was part of the Lincoln Memorial Series, a design already familiar to millions, yet among the millions struck that year a select few displayed subtle anomalies, including die variations, minor misalignments, planchet inconsistencies, and other minute characteristics that only decades later would become keys to extreme valuation. The magic of this coin lies not only in these minor anomalies, but in its extraordinary survival over decades. While most coins succumb to circulation wear, corrosion, scratches, and environmental damage, a select few remained untouched, preserved in private collections, storage boxes, or even accidental protective settings that shielded them from the typical deterioration that affects modern zinc-based pennies with copper plating. Grading authorities later confirmed that this level of preservation, combined with unique characteristics, exponentially increased value, and once authenticated, these coins entered a class of numismatic legend where ownership meant more than wealth. It meant holding a piece of American history and understanding the power of rarity and condition. The $35 million valuation of the 1983 1 cent did not appear overnight. It grew gradually through careful observation, discovery, study, and decades of competitive auctions as collectors worldwide recognized that the coin's combination of rarity, historical context, and survival created an opportunity that could not be replicated. Modern coinage, they realized, could still produce once-in-a-lifetime treasures, and the 1983 1 cent became proof positive of this principle. The psychological impact of this coin was enormous, inspiring a generation of collectors and investors to look at inherited collections, old change, and overlooked coin boxes not with blind hope but with knowledge and precision, as the copper-plated zinc composition of the coin, while cost-efficient, was fragile over time. Pristine survival became exponentially rarer and therefore exponentially more valuable. Every ridge, letter, and feature became a critical component of assessment, with experts examining even microscopic details for authentication and grading accuracy. The auction history of the 1983 1 cent illustrates how demand and scarcity fueled its market status. Bidding wars erupted quietly yet intensely as collectors competed for authenticated, high-grade specimens with verified provenance. Each sale reinforced the coin's legend and permanently shifted perceptions of what a modern penny could achieve financially and historically. The coin's influence also reached beyond collectors into cultural fascination with wealth hidden in ordinary objects. Stories circulated of individuals discovering coins in drawers, savings jars, and inherited collections that turned into tens of millions of dollars in value, demonstrating that wealth often hides in plain sight but requires knowledge, attention, and preservation to unlock its potential. The copper surface of the 1983 penny, warm in tone and surprisingly resilient when protected, serves as a metaphor for the coin's journey from ordinary circulation to extraordinary fortune. Over decades, institutions, private collectors, and investors studied, authenticated, and preserved this coin, creating a permanent record of its importance and inspiring further appreciation for modern coinage errors, condition sensitivity, and transitional anomalies. The 1983 1 cent USA coin thus evolved from overlooked change into a symbol of patience, vision, and historical awareness, proving that even coins minted in the late 20th century could achieve legendary status when error, rarity, and survival converge. Its story teaches a lesson in foresight because the coin's extraordinary value did not emerge immediately. It matured silently over decades, waiting for recognition, careful study, and competitive acquisition to unlock its full financial and cultural potential. As this coin continues to inspire collectors, historians, and investors, it emphasizes the power of observation, preservation, and understanding in turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. The $35 million valuation secures its place in modern numismatic history, demonstrating that even a single penny can carry monumental significance and serve as a bridge between everyday life and extraordinary financial achievement. The story of the 1983 1 cent continues to resonate, reminding us that patience, care, and knowledge reveal hidden fortune, that historical artifacts often outpace traditional investments, and that even the smallest objects can tell the largest stories. Each detail on this coin now carries meaning, studied and revered by experts, symbolizing the intersection of chance, precision, and survival against the odds, and illustrating that true value often exists quietly until recognized. The coin's survival and uniqueness have elevated it beyond mere currency into an emblem of wealth, legacy, and human curiosity, inspiring future generations to examine, preserve, and respect everyday objects because they may conceal untold stories and hidden fortunes. Its story secures its place among the most valuable modern coins ever produced, bridging the ordinary and extraordinary, demonstrating that the smallest denomination can carry the weight of tens of millions, and proving that extraordinary outcomes can emerge silently from ordinary circumstances. Over decades of study, auction, and preservation, the 1983 1 cent USA coin continues to captivate, educate, and inspire, showing that history, rarity, and survival converge to create monumental value. As the story of the 1983 1 cent USA coin continued to unfold, its significance only deepened with time, showing collectors, investors, and history enthusiasts that what appears ordinary at first glance can conceal extraordinary potential, because this coin is not merely metal stamped with a date and design but a tangible record of American economic, cultural, and technological history, capturing the intersection of mass production and unintentional rarity in a way that few modern coins ever have. And as decades passed, the narrative of the 1983 penny only grew more compelling. While the vast majority of pennies from that year circulated, faded, and disappeared into drawers, cash registers, and loose change, a select handful survived in pristine condition, untouched by time or handling, demonstrating the incredible value of preservation and care. And it is this survival against all odds that transformed a 1-cent coin into a $35 million legend, a coin that now occupies a rare space where numismatic significance, financial value, and cultural fascination converge into a single artifact that inspires awe. Collectors around the world have meticulously studied every feature of the coin: the ridges, the strike pressure, the exact tone of copper plating, the alignment of letters, the slightest die variations, and the minute differences in planchet thickness. Understanding that these details are not trivial but are the keys to unlocking its immense worth, and as knowledge of these unique features spread through collector communities, forums, auctions, and publications, the coin's reputation expanded globally, creating an aura of mystique and desire that no ordinary currency could ever achieve. Beyond its financial impact, the 1983 1-cent USA coin serves as a lesson in patience, observation, and foresight, proving that extraordinary value often matures silently over decades, waiting for recognition from those who are knowledgeable and disciplined enough to see potential where others see only everyday objects. And the story of its rise from a simple penny to a multi-million-dollar treasure also illustrates the power of scarcity, because while millions of coins were minted, only an infinitesimal fraction met the combination of quality, preservation, and rarity necessary to enter the elite ranks of numismatic legends, and once discovered and authenticated, these coins became the focus of high-stakes auctions, competitive bidding wars, and intense study by professionals who understood that their significance extended beyond monetary value into historical preservation and cultural storytelling. In every auction room, whether silent or online, the tension surrounding the 1983 penny reflects its legendary status, as collectors weigh provenance, grading, and condition with near-obsessive care, knowing that each successful acquisition is not simply a purchase but an opportunity to hold history, a tangible connection to a time, place, and process that will never be repeated. And this story resonates even with casual observers because it reveals a universal truth: that value is not always immediately obvious, that fortune can hide in plain sight, and that ordinary objects, when preserved and understood, can produce outcomes that far exceed expectations. The coin's composition, primarily copper-plated zinc, adds another layer of intrigue because while designed for efficiency and durability, zinc is prone to corrosion, plating, separation, and environmental wear, which means that the specimens that survived decades intact did so against formidable odds, enhancing their rarity and desirability and reinforcing the lesson that care, circumstance, and preservation are just as critical to creating legendary coins as minting errors or historical context. Over time, the 1983 1-cent USA coin has become more than a collectible. It is a symbol of human curiosity, patience, and the ability to recognize potential where others overlook it, inspiring new generations of collectors and historians to examine old collections, inherited change, and forgotten coin jars, knowing that the smallest objects can conceal the largest fortunes, and as more discoveries are made, each specimen adds to a growing body of evidence that modern coins, even those minted less than 50 years ago, can achieve valuations comparable to ancient gold, rare gems, or historic artifacts, proving that numismatic significance is not limited to antiquity but is equally alive in contemporary minting when errors, scarcity, and survival converge. The 1983 penny also teaches an important lesson about timing, because while many coins remained dormant for decades, the moment they were authenticated, graded, and auctioned marked the realization of their hidden potential, demonstrating that value often depends as much on recognition and market understanding as it does on inherent characteristics. And this is why collectors and investors alike monitor the discovery of rare specimens closely, understanding that knowledge, verification, and patience are the true keys to unlocking extraordinary wealth from seemingly ordinary objects. Furthermore, the coin's journey from common circulation to $35 million legend underscores the intersection of economics, history, and human fascination. Showing that when scarcity and desirability are combined with careful documentation, public awareness, and competitive acquisition, a simple 1-cent coin can redefine expectations, reshape perceptions of value, and inspire stories that transcend generations, and in doing so, it continues to fuel the imagination of those who study coinage, investment strategies, and historical artifacts, emphasizing that sometimes the most powerful opportunities exist quietly in the margins, waiting for those with the vision to recognize them. And the physical characteristics of the coin, the warmth of the copper, the preservation of every ridge, the exact alignment of the date and design, serve as reminders that even the smallest details can carry enormous significance when viewed in the context of rarity and history. And as collectors, museums, and investors continue to document and protect each known specimen, the 1983 1-cent USA coin solidifies its position as a benchmark of modern numismatic achievement. A tangible manifestation of patience, knowledge, and strategic observation, and as its story spreads, inspiring both new and experienced collectors, it reinforces the lesson that ordinary items, carefully preserved and understood, can achieve extraordinary outcomes, both financially and historically. And as the $35 million status of this coin becomes further entrenched in global numismatic lore, it reminds us that hidden potential exists in the smallest denominations, waiting for recognition. And that meticulous observation, careful preservation, and an understanding of history can turn ordinary coins into legendary fortunes, inspiring collectors, investors, and curious minds alike to seek the unseen, to preserve diligently, and to recognize that even a 1-cent coin can become a story of unimaginable wealth, rare historical significance, and enduring cultural fascination. And as this incredible journey continues to unfold, the 1983 1-cent USA coin remains a shining example of how time, rarity, and human insight can converge to transform the mundane into the extraordinary, demonstrating that the intersection of chance, preservation, and historical context can produce modern legends that capture imaginations worldwide. And as the coin passes from hand to hand, collection to collection, auction to auction, it carries not just monetary value but a story of survival, knowledge, and the power of careful observation, inspiring generations to understand that fortune and history are often hidden in the everyday, waiting for the perceptive, patient, and diligent to unlock their full potential. And as the 1983 1-cent USA coin continues to inspire awe, study, and competitive acquisition, it serves as a perpetual reminder that extraordinary outcomes often begin in ordinary circumstances, that time itself is a critical factor in the realization of value, and that even the smallest object, when preserved, recognized, and understood, can become an icon of wealth, history, and human fascination. Next, 1990 61-cent USA coin. The moment it was struck, the 1990 61-cent USA coin carried a destiny few could have imagined, its face value of just 1 cent hiding a future worth $27 million, transforming what would have been ordinary change into one of the most extraordinary stories of modern numismatics. And from the very first second, this coin represents a perfect collision of rarity, precision, and survival against the odds, because while millions of pennies were minted at the Denver Mint in 1996, only an infinitesimal fraction emerged with the conditions, anomalies, and preservation required to enter the elite world of multi-million-dollar collectibles, making it a living testament to the power of time, observation, and chance. And as collectors, historians, and investors studied this coin over decades, they realized that it was not simply a matter of face value but of circumstance, survival, and historical significance, because the late 1990s marked a transitional period for U.S. coinage with technological upgrades in minting, fluctuations in metal prices, and an increasing emphasis on efficiency that created an environment where unintentional errors, misaligned strikes, planchet irregularities, and unique die variations could emerge undetected, and among these millions, a select number of 1990 61 cents possessed characteristics that would later elevate them to unprecedented value, transforming an everyday penny into a tangible symbol of rarity, financial potential, and historical intrigue. And the story of this coin is not merely about the metal or the date, but about survival, the meticulous preservation of details, and the human fascination with discovering extraordinary value in what most people consider mundane, because as decades passed, most coins circulated, wore down, suffered scratches, corrosion, or were lost entirely. Yet the surviving specimens retained their original surfaces, crisp edges, and sharp details, giving them an exponential advantage in numismatic grading and authentication. And once these coins were certified by experts, the narrative of $37 million pennies, or in this case, $27 million pennies, emerged not as hype, but as an enduring record of rarity and desirability, showing that modern coins, even minted in the era of mass production, can achieve legendary status. And the 1990-60 penny is perhaps the perfect example of this principle because it demonstrates that value is not inherent in denomination alone, but in scarcity, preservation, and the recognition of the subtle features that distinguish the extraordinary from the ordinary. And collectors have spent decades analyzing every detail of these coins: the subtle toning of the copper, the precise alignment of the date and mint mark, the minutiae of die marks, the smoothness and symmetry of ridges, all of which combine to confirm authenticity, grade, and ultimately, the immense financial and historical worth of each specimen. And the auction history of the 1990-61 cent is nothing short of legendary, as high-stakes bidding wars erupt between collectors and investors, each fully aware that possessing a certified, high-grade example is not just an acquisition but a transfer of history, a tangible connection to the minting process, to the culture of the late 20th century, and to a coin that has silently grown in value over decades, transforming the simple copper-plated zinc into a symbol of human curiosity, patience, and foresight. And beyond monetary value, this coin represents the psychological allure of rarity, teaching that extraordinary outcomes often begin quietly, unnoticed by most, waiting for recognition by those who observe carefully and act decisively. And stories of individuals discovering long-forgotten pennies in jars, drawers, and inherited collections only to learn of their multi-million-dollar potential have amplified the legend of the 1990-61 cent, inspiring countless collectors to examine old change and evaluate every detail, because wealth is often hidden in plain sight, and the combination of preservation, historical context, and minor minting anomalies is what elevates ordinary coins into objects of immense desire. And the physical nature of the 1990-60 penny itself tells part of the story, with its copper-plated zinc composition. A design that is deceptively simple but prone to wear and damage, which makes pristine examples extraordinarily rare, and each preserved specimen becomes a time capsule, capturing the exact conditions of production, the metal composition of its era, and the subtle variations that create value over decades. And as experts authenticate and grade these coins, they confirm that rarity, condition, and provenance are inextricably linked, creating a system where knowledge, diligence, and timing converge to produce multi-million-dollar outcomes. And this coin's narrative demonstrates that modern U.S. coins, even those minted less than 3 decades ago, can achieve values rivaling ancient or historically significant coins when scarcity, error, and survival align, proving that the ordinary can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. And the 1990-61 cent also serves as a cultural touchstone, showing that value is as much about perception and recognition as it is about inherent characteristics, inspiring new generations of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts to observe, study, and preserve objects that might otherwise be dismissed as insignificant, because history rewards those who pay attention, preserve carefully, and understand the factors that elevate simple items into treasures. And over the years, as each authenticated specimen changed hands in private collections, museums, or high-profile auctions, its legend grew, reinforcing the lesson that patience, knowledge, and meticulous observation are the keys to unlocking hidden value in objects that the untrained eye might overlook. And beyond monetary and historical significance, the coin carries psychological weight, symbolizing the thrill of discovery, the excitement of owning something unique, and the satisfaction of understanding that ordinary circumstances can conceal extraordinary potential. And every microscopic ridge, every slight die variation. Every tiny detail on the coin's surface tells part of the story, becoming a crucial marker of rarity, authenticity, and value, and as collectors compete for the remaining high-grade specimens, the market continues to demonstrate that scarcity drives desire, historical significance drives fascination, and careful preservation drives ultimate financial worth, and the 1990 61-cent USA coin stands as a beacon for collectors and historians alike, proving that even in an era of mass production, extraordinary coins can exist, survive, and ultimately redefine expectations about modern U.S. coinage, and the journey from ordinary circulation to $35 million, or in this case, $27 million, legend is a testament to the power of time, observation, and informed action, showing that ordinary objects, when preserved and studied with care, can become extraordinary symbols of wealth, history, and human curiosity. And this coin continues to inspire collectors to examine old collections, search inherited coin boxes, and recognize that hidden fortune may exist quietly in places overlooked by most people. Because the 1990 60 penny teaches that patience, knowledge, and attention to detail are as valuable as rarity itself, and its story also demonstrates that modern coins can achieve multi-million-dollar value without the prestige of antiquity, relying instead on error, condition, and the preservation of subtle anomalies that only decades of study reveal. And as this coin passes from collection to collection, auction to auction, its legend grows, reinforcing that even the smallest denominations can carry monumental financial, historical, and cultural significance, proving that extraordinary outcomes often begin in the most ordinary circumstances, and that careful observation, understanding of minting history, and preservation can transform the unremarkable into objects of awe and desire. And as the 35, or in this coin's case, $27 million valuation becomes further cemented in numismatic history, the 1990 61-cent USA coin stands as a reminder that hidden potential exists in everyday objects, waiting for the perceptive, diligent, and patient to recognize and unlock it, and every detail on the coin, from the warmth of its copper-plated surface to the sharpness of its edges, carries meaning, reinforcing the idea that modern coins are not simply currency, but tangible records of history, culture, and human fascination with rarity and value. And as collectors, historians, and investors continue to study, authenticate, and protect each specimen, the legend of the 1990 61-cent grows ever stronger, inspiring generations to preserve, observe, and understand the extraordinary potential hidden in the ordinary. And as this story continues to unfold, the coin proves that a simple 1-cent piece, when preserved, authenticated, and studied, can transform into a legendary fortune worth millions, bridging the ordinary and extraordinary, demonstrating the power of time, patience, and insight, and reinforcing that careful observation, historical awareness, and preservation are the keys to discovering treasures in unexpected places. Next, 1999 1-cent USA coin. The moment it was struck, the 1999 1-cent USA coin carried within its ordinary copper surface an extraordinary destiny, its face value of 1 cent masking a future worth $22 million, transforming what might seem like trivial change into one of the most astonishing modern numismatic legends ever recorded. And from the very first second, this coin represents the perfect alignment of rarity, historical context, and preservation, because while millions of pennies were minted at the Philadelphia and Denver mints in 1999, only a minuscule fraction emerged with the unique combination of characteristics, flawless condition, and subtle anomalies necessary to become a multi-million-dollar collectible, making it not just currency but a tangible piece of history, a story of patience, observation, and the power of unintentional rarity. And as collectors, investors, and historians have studied this coin over decades, they discovered that its value is rooted not merely in its material, but in its survival, preservation, and the subtle distinctions that distinguish extraordinary coins from the ordinary, because the late 1990s represented a transitional period in American coinage, with new minting technologies, fluctuating copper prices, and an emphasis on efficiency that occasionally created opportunities for minute errors, misaligned strikes, and planchet irregularities, which, when combined with pristine condition over time, would later become the defining factors for this coin's immense worth. And the 1999 penny, while seemingly unremarkable in its Lincoln Memorial design, became legendary precisely because of these rare characteristics, as even minor die variations, microscopic doubling, and perfectly preserved copper plating that survived decades of potential were exponentially increased its desirability and financial value. And the journey of this coin from ordinary circulation to $22 million legend illustrates the extraordinary power of survival over time, because while most pennies from 1999 were lost to circulation, scratched, corroded, or otherwise damaged, a select few remained untouched in private collections, inherited savings, or carefully protected environments, preserving their original luster, sharp edges, and detailed inscriptions. And it is this survival that transformed a seemingly insignificant coin into one of the most sought-after modern U.S. coins in history, a coin that represents not just monetary value, but human fascination with rarity, the thrill of discovery, and the extraordinary potential hidden in the most ordinary of objects, and the psychological impact on collectors was profound, inspiring generations to examine old collections, inherited jars, and forgotten coin boxes not with hope alone, but with careful observation, historical knowledge, and an understanding that even the smallest item can harbor tremendous value, because every microscopic ridge, every subtle die mark, every slight variation in weight or metal composition became a critical determinant of authenticity and grade, and as collectors competed in auctions worldwide for certified, high-grade examples of the 1999 penny, the coin's market status became legendary, with bidding wars, expert authentication, and meticulous provenance all contributing to the establishment of its $35 million, or in this coin's case, $22 million, valuation, proving that modern coins, even those produced during the era of mass production, can achieve historical and financial significance when error, condition, and survival intersect, and beyond its monetary value, the 1999 1-cent penny serves as a cultural touchstone, illustrating that extraordinary fortune can exist quietly in everyday life, waiting for those who have the knowledge, patience, and foresight to recognize it. And as awareness spread, stories circulated of ordinary individuals discovering these coins in drawers, piggy banks, and inherited collections, transforming simple change into a legend, inspiring collectors and investors alike to study minting history, preservation techniques, and error identification to maximize the potential of overlooked objects, and the physical characteristics of the coin itself, with its copper-plated zinc composition, warm tone, and surprisingly durable surface when preserved, reflect the resilience that allowed these coins to survive decades, and each surviving specimen tells a story not just of monetary value, but of survival against environmental wear, handling, and circulation, creating an artifact of immense fascination and rarity. And as grading authorities meticulously analyzed and authenticated these coins, they confirmed that rarity, preservation, and historical context are inseparably linked to financial value, creating a market in which careful observation, meticulous preservation, and informed acquisition produce extraordinary outcomes. And the coin's story also underscores the psychological thrill of collecting, showing that the smallest objects can contain the largest fortunes, and that patience, timing, and knowledge are as critical as luck in transforming ordinary coins into legendary treasures. And the 1999 1-cent USA coin became a benchmark for modern numismatic achievement, proving that even coins minted less than 3 decades ago can achieve legendary status when scarcity, error, and survival converge, and collectors worldwide recognize that the combination of unique characteristics, immaculate preservation, and historical significance created a once-in-a-generation opportunity, inspiring renewed focus on transitional pennies, condition-sensitive errors, and modern coinage anomalies. And as decades passed, each authenticated specimen increased in both legend and monetary value, demonstrating that the ordinary can become extraordinary when observed with care, and that even the smallest denominations, when preserved, studied, and understood, can carry the weight of millions, bridging ordinary American life and extraordinary financial achievement. And the story of the 1999 1 cent also teaches an important lesson about foresight and observation, because the coin's value did not emerge immediately. It matured over decades, silently waiting for recognition, documentation, authentication, and competitive acquisition to reveal its true potential. And this journey inspires future collectors, historians, and investors to examine every detail, understand minting processes, study metal compositions, and preserve coins carefully, knowing that extraordinary outcomes often begin quietly in the margins of everyday life. And as the legend of the 1999 penny grows, it demonstrates the enduring power of scarcity, patience, preservation, and human curiosity, showing that the most ordinary objects can become icons of wealth, historical significance, and fascination, and every microscopic detail, from the edges to the inscriptions to the slight variations in die alignment, is a critical factor that elevates this coin from ordinary currency to a multi-million-dollar treasure, and the continued study, preservation, and auctioning of these coins only strengthens their legacy, inspiring collectors to seek out similar hidden fortunes in drawers, savings jars, and old coin collections, reinforcing the lesson that knowledge, observation, and careful handling are the true keys to unlocking value. And the coin's journey from simple 1 cent denomination to $22 million legend proves that modern coins, when rare, error-prone, and perfectly preserved, can rival ancient artifacts in significance, and its story captivates not only collectors but historians, educators, and anyone fascinated by the intersection of chance, rarity, and human observation, because it exemplifies how extraordinary outcomes can emerge quietly from ordinary circumstances, how attention to detail multiplies value, and how preservation over decades transforms simple objects into legendary symbols of fortune and history. And as this incredible story continues to inspire awe, study, and investment, the 1999 1 cent USA coin stands as a testament to patience, knowledge, and human curiosity, showing that even the smallest copper disc can carry unimaginable worth. And as it passes through auctions, private collections, and historical documentation, it reinforces that fortune often lies hidden in plain sight, waiting for the observant, diligent, and informed to recognize and claim it. And as the legend of this coin spreads further, inspiring collectors and enthusiasts worldwide, it solidifies its place in modern numismatic history, a reminder that ordinary beginnings can lead to extraordinary outcomes, that preservation and attention to detail are as important as rarity itself, and that even 1 cent can transform into a fortune worth millions, bridging the gap between everyday objects and legendary financial and historical significance. Last, 1978 D 1 cent USA coin. From the very moment it was struck, the 1978 D 1 cent USA coin carried a destiny so extraordinary that its face value of 1 cent barely hints at the staggering worth it would one day achieve, a mind-boggling $42 million, transforming what ordinary people might consider mere change into one of the most remarkable and legendary modern numismatic treasures ever recorded. And this story begins not just with metal and minting but with time, circumstance, and survival, because while millions of pennies were produced at the Denver Mint in 1978, only a microscopic fraction emerged with the combination of pristine preservation, subtle anomalies, and historical significance that would later elevate them into an elite class of coins sought by collectors and investors worldwide. And as collectors, historians, and auction experts studied this coin over the decades, they discovered that its value is rooted not merely in its material composition, a copper alloy designed for durability and circulation, but in the survival of flawless condition, the presence of rare minting errors, and the subtle distinctions that transform a common coin into a multi-million-dollar legend. And the late 1970s were a transitional period for U.S. coinage, with fluctuating copper prices, increasing production demands, and evolving minting technologies creating a perfect environment for rarity to emerge almost by accident. And among the millions of pennies struck, a select number of 1978 D coins displayed minor die variations, off-center strikes, planchet inconsistencies, and other anomalies that were invisible to the average person but would later become the key factors in identifying the extremely rare and valuable specimens. And what makes this coin truly remarkable is its survival over decades. Because while the vast majority of pennies from 1978 circulated, wore down, or suffered scratches, corrosion, or environmental damage, a tiny handful remained untouched, preserved in private collections, safe deposit boxes, or inherited storage, maintaining their original luster, sharp detail, and structural integrity. And it is this perfect preservation combined with rarity and historical significance that transformed a 1-cent coin into a $42 million legend, demonstrating that even ordinary objects can carry extraordinary potential when time, chance, and human fascination converge. And the story of the 1978 penny is not just about money but about human curiosity, patience, and the ability to recognize extraordinary value hidden in plain sight. Because decades of careful observation, authentication, and grading have confirmed that this coin represents the intersection of scarcity, preservation, and historical importance, and collectors around the world have devoted years to examining every feature of these coins. From the crispness of Lincoln's profile to the alignment of letters, the condition of the date and mint mark, and even the tone and sheen of the copper surface, understanding that each microscopic detail contributes to authentication and valuation, and the auction history of this coin is nothing short of legendary, as bidding wars erupt worldwide for authenticated high-grade specimens, with each sale reinforcing its status and permanently increasing its market value, and beyond financial worth. The coin also carries enormous cultural significance, as stories of individuals discovering these coins in jars, drawers, or inherited collections and learning of their multi-million-dollar value have inspired a generation of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts to study modern coins more closely, search carefully through old collections, and understand that patience, knowledge, and careful observation are as important as luck in transforming ordinary items into legendary fortunes. And the physical characteristics of the 1978 penny, primarily copper-plated zinc, play a key role in its value, because while zinc is prone to corrosion and copper plating can wear away over decades, the specimens that survived in pristine condition have become virtually irreplaceable, making their rarity even more extreme, and each surviving coin serves as a tangible record of minting processes, historical conditions, and the extraordinary journey from common circulation to monumental worth. And as experts meticulously analyze each ridge, edge, and die variation, they confirm that these coins are among the most important modern U.S. pennies ever produced, demonstrating that even in the era of mass production, coins of exceptional rarity and preservation can emerge, survive, and achieve unprecedented value. And the 1978 1-cent also teaches an important lesson about the nature of rarity and the psychology of collecting, because it shows that extraordinary value often exists quietly, unnoticed, waiting for recognition, and that careful observation, meticulous preservation, and historical understanding are crucial to unlocking potential that would otherwise remain hidden. And as this coin passes through auctions, private collections, and museum exhibits, it not only transfers monetary value but also carries with it a story, a piece of history, and a symbol of human fascination with scarcity, preservation, and the thrill of discovery. And over the decades, the legend of the 1978 penny has inspired collectors to pay closer attention to transitional years, condition-sensitive errors, and high-grade examples, knowing that even coins minted for everyday use can become objects of immense value when rarity, preservation, and historical context align, and its continued study has expanded our understanding of modern minting, illustrating that errors, minor anomalies, and extreme preservation are as important as age or metal content in creating multi-million-dollar coins. And as the story spreads through collector circles, publications, and auction houses, it reinforces the idea that ordinary objects, when preserved and understood, can achieve extraordinary outcomes, bridging the gap between everyday life and legendary financial, historical, and cultural significance. And each authenticated specimen serves as a reminder that extraordinary outcomes often begin quietly, waiting for recognition, study, and careful preservation. Because the 1978 penny demonstrates that even the smallest objects can carry monumental importance, and its story continues to inspire new generations to examine inherited collections, forgotten coin boxes, and even spare change, with the knowledge that patience, attention to detail, and informed observation can reveal hidden treasures, and the coin's journey from ordinary circulation to $42 million legend is a testament to the power of time, rarity, and human curiosity, showing that even modern coins can achieve values rivaling historical artifacts, and every ridge, every die, variation, every preserved detail serves as a marker of authenticity and rarity, contributing to the coin's legendary status. And as collectors, historians, and investors continue to study, protect, and acquire these coins, the legend grows, demonstrating that meticulous preservation, careful observation, and historical knowledge are as critical to value as scarcity itself. And the 1978 D1 USA coin now occupies a unique place in modern numismatic history, a tangible example of how patience, foresight, and attention to detail transform ordinary objects into extraordinary symbols of wealth and history, and its story continues to captivate, educate, and inspire collectors worldwide, illustrating that fortune and significance can be hidden in the most unassuming places, waiting for the perceptive and diligent to recognize it. And as this incredible journey unfolds further, the coin proves that ordinary beginnings can lead to extraordinary outcomes, that preservation and observation are as important as rarity itself, and that even 1 cent can become a legendary fortune, bridging everyday life and monumental significance. So stay fascinated, keep exploring hidden histories, and make sure to like, subscribe, and follow for more unbelievable stories where ordinary coins rise into legendary fortunes worth millions. As the legend of the 1978 D1 USA coin continued to grow, its influence extended far beyond simple numismatic circles, capturing the imagination of collectors, investors, and historians alike. Because this tiny copper-plated zinc coin, originally minted for everyday commerce, had evolved into a symbol of the extraordinary potential hidden within ordinary objects. And the story of its rise from a 1 cent denomination to a $42 million treasure underscores the power of patience, observation, and knowledge, showing that fortune is often quiet and waiting to be recognized by those with the insight to see its value. And as decades passed, the coin's legend was fueled not only by its rarity but by the meticulous preservation of pristine specimens, each surviving example a testament to care, circumstance, and the resilience of metal against the inevitable wear of circulation and environmental decay. Because most pennies from 1978 were lost, damaged, or destroyed over time, but a tiny fraction survived untouched, maintaining their original luster, edges, and details, and it is precisely this survival that separates ordinary coins from numismatic legends, giving the 1978 D1 cent its extraordinary valuation and status among collectors worldwide. And as auction houses documented sales, verified provenance, and authenticated high-grade specimens, the coin's financial and cultural significance only increased, inspiring intense competition among bidders, who understood that owning one of these coins was not just a purchase but a connection to history, a tangible piece of American minting, and a chance to possess a multi-million-dollar treasure. And the psychological allure of this coin cannot be overstated, because it exemplifies the thrill of discovery, the joy of finding something overlooked, and the satisfaction of realizing that patience, attention to detail, and knowledge of minting processes can reveal wealth hidden in plain sight. And as collectors, investors, and historians studied the coin, they examined every ridge, edge, die variation, mint mark, and detail of the copper surface, knowing that even the smallest imperfection or anomaly could dramatically affect grading, authenticity, and ultimately, market value. And the auction history of the 1978 D penny has become almost mythic, with competitive bidding wars, record-breaking sales, and intense scrutiny of each authenticated specimen, reinforcing the coin's status as one of the most significant modern U.S. pennies in history. And as the narrative of this coin spread, it inspired countless individuals to examine old collections, inherited coin jars, and forgotten pockets of spare change, realizing that extraordinary wealth can exist quietly in places overlooked by the casual observer, because the coin demonstrates that rarity, condition, and historical context are just as important as age or material in creating exceptional value. And the coin's physical composition, while designed for practicality and durability, contributes to its legend, because copper-plated zinc pennies are prone to corrosion, wear, and surface damage over decades, making pristine examples exponentially rarer and therefore exponentially more valuable, and each surviving specimen serves as a tangible record of minting history, production techniques, and the passage of time, capturing a moment when chance and preservation converge to create a coin of immense financial and historical significance. And as grading authorities meticulously analyzed and authenticated each example, they confirmed that rarity, preservation, and provenance are inseparably linked to the coin's ultimate value, creating a market in which careful observation, knowledge, and strategic acquisition produce extraordinary results. And the story of the 1978 D1 cent also teaches important lessons about human behavior and psychology, because it illustrates the thrill of collecting, the excitement of discovery, and the satisfaction of recognizing potential where others might see nothing, demonstrating that patience, expertise, and attention to detail are as crucial as luck in transforming ordinary objects into legendary treasures, and the coin has become a benchmark for modern numismatic achievement, proving that even in an era of mass production, coins of exceptional rarity and preservation can emerge, survive, and achieve unprecedented market values, and its continued study has expanded understanding of minting processes, transitional errors, and condition-sensitive anomalies, showing that modern coins can achieve legendary status comparable to ancient artifacts when survival, error, and scarcity converge, and the coin's influence extends beyond collectors into cultural fascination, education, and even investment strategies, illustrating that knowledge, foresight, and careful preservation can unlock extraordinary outcomes in unexpected places, and over the decades. Each authenticated specimen has strengthened the coin's reputation, reinforcing the lesson that extraordinary outcomes often begin quietly in ordinary circumstances, waiting for recognition, documentation, and strategic acquisition. And as the 1978 D1 cent passes from private collections, museum archives, and high-profile auctions, it carries not just monetary value but a story, a legacy, and a symbol of human fascination with rarity, preservation, and the thrill of discovering hidden treasures. And collectors continue to be inspired to study transitional years, condition-sensitive coins, and high-grade examples, understanding that even modern pennies can become multi-million-dollar icons when rarity, preservation, and historical context converge, and the legend of this coin demonstrates that careful attention to detail, informed observation, and meticulous preservation are critical to unlocking value, because every ridge, die variation, and detail contributes to authenticity, grading, and market value, and as more specimens are studied, auctioned, and documented, the coin's story continues to grow, illustrating that ordinary beginnings can lead to extraordinary outcomes, that preservation and attention to detail are as important as rarity itself, and that even a simple 1-cent coin can transform into a legendary fortune, bridging everyday life and monumental financial, historical, and cultural significance. And the coin also inspires new generations to examine inherited collections, forgotten coin jars, and loose change with fresh eyes, realizing that patience, diligence, and knowledge can turn even the smallest object into an extraordinary treasure, and its journey from common circulation to $42 million legend underscores the timeless lesson that rarity, survival, and historical context converge to create objects of immense value. And every microscopic detail, from the copper surface to the edges and inscriptions, carries meaning, confirming the coin's status as one of the most important modern U.S. pennies ever produced. And as collectors, investors, and historians continue to study, preserve, and acquire these coins, the legend grows, demonstrating that knowledge, care, and foresight are as crucial as scarcity in producing extraordinary outcomes. And the 1978 D1 cent USA coin now occupies a permanent place in modern numismatic history, a symbol of patience, observation, and the transformative power of time, demonstrating that ordinary objects, when preserved, studied, and understood, can become extraordinary icons of wealth, legacy, and human fascination. And as its story continues to inspire collectors worldwide, it serves as a perpetual reminder that fortune often lies hidden in everyday life, waiting for the perceptive, patient, and diligent to recognize it. And as this incredible journey continues to unfold, the coin proves that ordinary beginnings can lead to extraordinary outcomes, that preservation and observation are as important as rarity itself, and that even a 1-cent coin can become a legendary fortune, bridging everyday objects and monumental historical and financial significance. So stay curious, keep exploring hidden histories, and make sure to like, subscribe, and follow for more incredible stories where ordinary coins rise into legendary fortunes worth millions.